Hey, one more thing before you go. From darkness to light, navigating spiritual depths and heights can be daunting and an experience we might be scared away from and not know how to handle it. Well, today we're embarking on a profound journey that delves into the very essence of our existence and touches upon the intricate interplay between the shadows that dwell within us and the illuminating highs that take us beyond ordinary consciousness. We're going to show you how to navigate these experiences in a very unique way. Stay tuned. I'm your host, Michael Hurst. Welcome to One More Thing Before You Go. My guest in this episode is Andrea Dedu. Her mission in life is to support individuals that desire to integrate the highs and lows of really far out experiences, like spiritual awakenings, mystical experiences, and insights from altered states of consciousness, which may come about spontaneously from spiritual practice or from psychedelics. Her work is experiential, process based, embodied, systematic, transpersonal, and relational. She's currently preparing to publish her research on integrating spiritual emergencies to better support her work with integration. And welcome to the show, Andrea.
Thank you, Michael. Happy to be here.
What an amazing journey. We talked a little bit about when we first met before we started the show. And yeah, an amazing journey that you have and where you're at today.
It has been. What a bit of a shocker. One never knows where one will end up.
Yeah, that's the interesting part about life, right? It's unique. We're all on a journey, and sometimes the journey opens doors and windows that we're not expecting.
Yep.
We're kind of almost like a haunted house, right? You don't know which one's going to scare you, or somewhere thereabouts. I like to start at the beginning. I know we got a lot to talk about. You get many things that you help individuals with that have. I love how you put it, far out experiences. See, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, so far out experiences work for me.
Yeah, I always wonder if that languaging, right? Like if it makes sense to people, right? When we talk about far out experiences, like what does that really mean? Right. So,
Yeah. Well, it depends. I guess it depends upon what era.
right.
That you're at. It has different meanings depending upon which era. I like to start at the beginning. So, can we talk about where you grew up?
Sure. I was born in Romania. I was born in a little town called Focșani, which was about 3,000 people, but it was a city. It wasn't rural. Yeah.
What were your parents like?
I'm an only child, and my parents received both. Actually, ended up getting masters, which was quite rare in Romania at the time when they were living. Both sets of my grandparents have farms in rural Romania. So for them to, go to high school, go to receive a bachelor's education, much less a master's, was very different from the other generations of my family. And my parents are highly educated, very hardworking, and family is really important to them. So maintaining close connections with family. Family is important. We always help family. There's a deep, deep, deep bond there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think today a lot of society today has lost that ability to really understand that family should be number one priority, and that we all should take care of our neighbors and look out for each other from that perspective. I grew up in an environment where we did that in our family as well, and I won't say how old I am, but we'll say we're at an age that I can look back on that and go, I kind of miss that in today's society. You see it kind of going away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of it. What did you want to be when you grew up? Did you go to I know you've gone to school, but did you start with the university?
Yeah, no. So when I was really little, I wanted to be the president of Romania.
That's a great aspiration.
Yeah. And then I switched to wanting to be a doctor, and then I realized that I don't like blood, so that foiled. And
Oh,
then
yeah. That's
I
my
was really
daughter.
lost. Yeah. Is she a
My daughter's
doctor?
favorite program is Grey's Anatomy. So I was like, "Well,
Okay.
why did you want to be a doctor?" She goes, "I know all these terminologies from Grey's Anatomy." She goes, "I don't like blood."
Yeah. Yeah. So that one stopped. And then I was really lost for quite a while. I knew that I wanted to help people, so I did a lot of volunteering. I worked with Oxfam. Gosh, I don't know how many different volunteering things I did. And I was a little bit of,
Mm.
what's the word here? Of a shapeshifter, right? I transformed very easily. I moved around a lot. We moved to Canada when I was 9 years old. And I began to mold into different places, and I didn't really know who I was, what my place was in the world, what I was meant to do, other than that I was extremely sensitive and cared deeply for animals and for other human beings. But I didn't know what that would look like, really.
Are you religious or more spiritual?
I was brought up religious. Yeah. So my grandparents, especially, are extremely religious. They go to church every Sunday. And then my parents, because of the education and the huge transitions that were happening in Romania at the time, they kind of lost that connection.
Mm.
So I was brought up sort of respecting religion, but not with an actual connection to it.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I became extremely materialistic just because of the education that I received. Yeah. I was scientific. I believed in history. I was curious around the body, but I had no spiritual connection whatsoever.
So when this hit you, it kind of hit you, kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
so to
It
speak.
rocked me hard. Yeah.
So when you went to school, what did you go to school for? May I ask?
History.
You know, for a history major.
Yeah.
My wife loves history. She wanted to
Yeah.
be a history major and ended up going to communication because it was more feasible for work,
Right.
kind of a
Well,
thing.
yeah. I mean, I had no idea what was I going to do with a history degree.
E- Exactly. It's although if you look at these days, you look at I should remember this guy. He's one of my favorite guys, Josh Gates. Josh Gates is an archaeologist and a history major, and he's got like 5 shows across cable networks like Discovery Channel and Travel Channel and everything, and he's made a huge living at sharing his archaeology and his history. What put you more on a spiritual path?
Mm. Um, so how I mentioned I was really, really lost. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in history, and then I was partying lots. I was, like, I guess, a normal 20-year-old. Who knows what normal is? But anywho, I didn't know what I was doing with my life, and then I started having suicidal thoughts. And then I started visualizing myself. If I were to die, if I were to just, uh, you know, I hope this isn't triggering, but if I were to jump off this balcony right here, what what would happen? Like, would that be okay? Um, and once I started having those thoughts, and I kind of put the brakes on my life, and I started realizing that I needed to change rapidly, drastically. But at the same time, I didn't feel safe. I didn't have the connections with my parents to be able to speak to them about it, or my partner at the time, or my friends. I just pushed very hard to change my life. And I somehow convinced my partner, now husband, to move to Thailand. And I picked up a book on meditation. It was it was called The Buddha's Brain by, I forget his name now. Anywho, he's quite well known. And I started meditating on my own, just sort of offhand. And I was doing it because the book was listing the scientific benefits of meditation, of how it could change your life and transform your life. And I was thinking, I need a change. I need something to help me out here. So I started meditating. And I had already been doing yoga for a long period of time. Uh, but then with meditation, I came across these two beautiful senior Dharma teachers, Peggy and Larry Ward, in the tradition of Thich Nhat Hanh, of Zen meditation. And I started meditating with them weekly in Thailand. And then I started experiencing really beautiful things. I would feel much more at peace. I would be much more grounded, regulated. I could watch my thoughts and my emotions more as an observer and not get so caught up in it. I really started experiencing the benefits of meditation and yoga. So I thought, well, if this is going so well, let's jump in more. Let's do more of it. What could happen if not something just better? So I decided to go to India and stay in an ashram, which is a place of study, of intense study of yoga. And I stayed there for 2 months, um, waking up at like 5:30 a.m., going to bed at 9 p.m., and the whole day basically either breath work, meditation, body practice, philosophy, reading, self-study, self-practice. It was the whole day of spiritual practice. And again,
Oh,
I was feeling really good.
that's amazing. I mean, they take it very, very, very seriously in that arena. The fact, I mean, I
Yeah.
meditate. My wife and I both are in actually my whole family's in meditation. You know, I've been through 8 operations where I used meditation to help me to heal through that in various aspects of it, to overcome the pain, to help me to walk again, help me to,
Wow.
focus and concentrate. So I value that journey through
Mm-hmm.
what I've learned with meditation, and it works. So what a profound opportunity for you to be able to get such an in-depth soul connection to meditation and yoga from that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. It was phenomenal. It was deeply, deeply healing.
I know that you came across a lot of different spiritual healers. Were there any more aside from that? Did your journey continue? What kind of doors opened for you after went that in depth? I guess.
Oh, wow. Well, I started teaching mindfulness. That was a huge door that opened. And then I'm just getting, my whole body's getting excited here at that question. I mean, just the sort of people that I started to meet, they were beautiful,
Right.
beautiful human beings. Yeah. I I started to look at the world as something that is living. Yeah, not just the animals as being alive, but as trees being alive, as the actual planet having a heartbeat and an energy that I could connect with. I started reaching really intense mystical states, yeah, of unity. I thought that I was at one with everything, and we are.
We are.
Yeah. But to actually feel it, to sense it
Yeah.
in my body, to not just know it cognitively, but to feel it on a physical bodily sense was amazing. Yeah. Um,
Well, I know I said profound earlier, but it's profound. I mean, it's when we all realize that we're all connected from that perspective, and we're all connected to source, and that Mother Nature is we're all part of the living planet, who we
mhm.
are, and that connection. Although I think she's a little mad lately,
Yeah,
just a little, but
yeah,
um, I think we all have that opportunity that we can reach deep inside and understand that we all are connected, and that we are connected with Earth, Mother Earth, and that we have to take the tools given to us in order to open the doors to get the feeling that like you have gotten and I've gotten in the past, that
mhm,
to really feel it is something I think we all kind of crave,
yeah,
but society has muddled it up just a little bit,
yeah, yeah.
just a wee bit. Um, when you once you were able to connect with that, and that opened that door too, to that kind of a feeling, and what I mean, I'm sure that had just had to be amazing and tingling, and I mean, I'm not sure what the exact word would be, but excited
Hmm.
as well as satisfied, and I'm guessing your soul kind of felt a little satisfied.
Well, it just felt like everything's okay. Yeah. And also at the same time, the other edge of the sword, though, was that I began to be extremely sensitive. And I was living in Bangkok at the time. And I remember being on the sort of, they have this like BTS, like a metro, and looking around and feeling everybody's sadness, like the grief that they were carrying, the disconnection, and knowing inside myself the beauty of and how interconnected everything was, and the bliss and the happiness that I was feeling, and yet seeing everybody else what they were experiencing was so saddening. Like I could just look at somebody and my eyes would just tear up. I would just start to feel so sad and feel such empathy for whatever they were holding, because I could feel it on an energetic level.
So it really opened up your empathy pathways to really understand from a deeper sense what other people were actually feeling, not just saying it or not just understanding, but actually feeling it and seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
did
and go ahead.
did that change your life?
Well, it did, because then I started to and I was still experiencing a lot of mystical experiences, right? So insights coming in, knowings, understandings. And then there was something internal in me that realized or came to the understanding, I don't, arrived at a truth, however you want to put it. But for me, it was very
Right.
deep, that our planet is in a huge transition. And in this huge transition that we're in, I can be on the side of love and support and sort of these higher spiritual ideals of wanting to benefit humanity. So,
Mm.
all the work that I was doing internally, I wanted it to benefit my community, the larger city of Bangkok, the whole planet, Mother Earth, the cosmos, like everything, because I knew how interconnected was. It was fine that I was in a blissed out state, but the fact that I knew that my evolution is interlinked with everybody else's evolution, I couldn't just go off meditating, in the mountains of Himalaya and be in a blissed out state. I realized that I wanted to be in the midst of society and to make an impact on the ways of humanity.
So that's how do you feel that shifted you away from your materialism and your atheism?
Yeah,
I thought,
yeah,
I'm sure that it did such a point that, well, as you said, you wanted to partake, you wanted to get in the middle, basically in the middle of it, and kind of you know make a positive impact on humanity in our home
yeah.
from that perspective. Um, I know that in the notes that I had gotten from you, it says you crashed into a dark night of the soul hard.
Mm.
Was it shortly after that, or did that happen prior to that?
No, it was shortly after that. So once I started sort of feeling the deep sadness that was in the earth, in society, and other humans, even though I was still meditating like 2 3 hours a day and doing a lot of yoga practice, I couldn't maintain the state of bliss that I had come back to Bangkok with from India. It just slipped through my fingers like sand, and I lost it. Like, I still had the mystical connection, but I didn't have the deep sense of internal peace that I had reached. Yeah. So I started thinking that I was bad, that I was wrong, that I wasn't meditating enough, that I wasn't doing enough, that I should be doing more, that somehow I made a mistake, that the level of, at that point I was quite naive, the level of enlightenment that I had reached, that somehow there was something wrong with me, that I couldn't maintain it. Yeah. So that was a huge valley that I crashed into.
Do you think we all, because we're human, that we would all experience something like that if we reached this particular level? So if there's others out there that might be on the precipice of doing just that, the same thing that happened to you, there is hope though. You
Yeah,
were able to come out of that and climb forward,
yeah,
and obviously you know here you've had other conversations and created an environment for people to be able to manage those type of experiences and move them forward.
yeah. I do think that it's something that happens. Yeah, once you reach those heights, any sort of downward movement is gonna feel like a dark night of the soul because of such intense bliss, such intense love. Yeah. And, you know, like Eckhart Tolle, sorry, just to, I hope, hope I don't trigger anybody, but I get super triggered by him. You know, his whole teaching is like, well, just sit on the bench and just open yourself up, and then you're going to just stay in this state forever. No, it just doesn't
Exactly.
happen that way. It doesn't happen that way in our modern societies. Yes, we can reach enlightened states. Definitely, we can experience that. And then we're going to come back down. And then we're going to go back up and come back down and go. It's just going to keep moving. There's no sort of plateau of enlightenment that we reach of eternal peace and bliss and love where we're healed and we never get triggered and stay that way for decades. It just
I think human nature will obviously open the door to that those ups and downs and the doubts and the some well I could say negativity, I guess, from a certain aspect. Again, because we're all human, I think that you know we all start thinking, are we really up here, or you know, am I really supposed to be here, or am I, as you said earlier, am I contributing enough? And you know, I had to go through that from a different perspective because as a law enforcement officer, my job was to protect and serve, and then I got flipped on its head when then I had to rely on other people, and then I
yeah.
felt guilty and I felt depressed and I felt angry and I felt because and instead of being the one that was up up here helping others, I was then having to ask for help, which then compounded guilt, which then made me angry, which then made me depressed. You know, but so I think we all at some point in our life, whether it be through a spiritual aspect or something that we are going through, life's obstacles, our ups and downs in life in general. We all happen to have those ups and downs and those valleys and those peaks and so forth.
I
You,
think so too.
at what point did you kind of come out of that to where you were able to start building upon it to help other people?
Mm, at what point? Ooh, who knows? I mean, it took me a while. Um, a solid a solid year of struggling, probably. And I mean, I still struggle. Yeah, just to name it. I mean, I don't have the same level of bliss and love that I had
Right.
then. Yeah. So even though I can say that I'm much more regulated and grounded, and hopefully a little bit more wise for having gone through the experience, it still shakes me. So it took me a year of grasping, thinking, oh, if I just do this retreat, it will I will get to that same state. Oh, if I just do um, this type of breathwork practice for X amount of hours a day, I will get to that state again. But what happened then, because I was coming at it from such a different place,
Right.
I was coming at it from a highly dysregulated place, that then I couldn't take in the insights that were coming at me because they were coming at me too much, too fast, and I just kept getting even more dysregulated, even more ungrounded, even more lost. Even though I had this idea of I want to have a positive impact in this world, I didn't know how to do that because I was so confused and so lost in my own journey.
I think that in again I think your whole understanding of truth, what you thought was truth, changed, correct?
Totally.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, I was materialistic. I wore a lot of makeup. I spent a lot of money on drinking and fun drugs and clothes, and I'm like a completely different person now. Yeah.
It's, I think life, how do I say this? Life sometimes puts us on a path that I think we're supposed to be. We all say we choose our path before we come back into life.
Mm.
And sometimes we have to question, why did I do this? Why did I do that? Why did I pick that path? But ultimately, I believe that the paths that we have chosen are here for us to learn and here for us to be able to build upon so that our knowledge and our experiences gain to such a point that we can then use those experiences to help other people through their path and their journey. So,
Yeah.
earlier we were talking about far out experiences. What's your definition of far out
Mm,
experiences? I have to
mm,
ask that.
yeah. Any experiences that go beyond consensus reality, right? So consensus reality is I live in a square house with concrete, and I have to save money in my bank account for retirement. I have to spend money. I have to communicate with physical people, right? And then far out experiences are going beyond that. Yeah. So having a communication with a tree and realizing that that's actually a sentient being, that there's some sort of consciousness, maybe not the same consciousness that I have, but that there's something living in it that is beyond just cells growing and evolving. Yeah. That then we break out of this sort of physical materialistic constriction that we have around ourselves. Yeah. That far out can be connecting to nature, but it can also be connecting to the cosmos. Yeah. So connecting to planets or connecting to, gosh, who knows, other than human entities. Like, I don't know what the truth is. Yeah. Like,
Exactly.
who knows? We have no idea. Yeah.
I mean,
To think that there might be no entities, to think that there might be no aliens, like, we have no idea what reality is. Like, we have absolutely no clue. I did a master's in consciousness thinking that I could answer the question, what is consciousness? And then, and then I realized we have no idea. Like,
yeah,
who have PhDs and who do academic research in this, they have no clue what reality is. They have no clue what consciousness is. They have no clue about the mind. Like, we don't, we have no idea.
it's
Like,
infinite. Just like the
maybe.
possibility of, I mean, the reality is there's thousands of universes out there, and the James Webb Telescope is actually starting to present that opportunity for the expanse of this universe and beyond that, and even the concept of thinking that we're alone in all of that universe really
Right?
is, in my opinion, is a little ludicrous because obviously we can't be here by ourselves. There's got to be.
There's got to be more than this, right? Or even just
Exactly.
quantum reality, right? The impact, the idea that one atom can have an impact on an atom beyond time and space. Yeah. Like
Yep.
retroactively into the past or into the future, things that you wouldn't think that are connected. If that's happening to an atom, what's to say that we might not be able to do that as well, right? Like, there's research into telepathy that is
Yeah.
showing amazing things, or the fact that my energy body, right, my nervous system, right, which overflows outside of my body, can have an impact on you through this computer screen. I don't, and distance, of miles, right? Like, there's just so much that we don't know, that we're beginning to
Yeah.
experience, that there's, yeah. So all of these, right, like these quantum entanglements, these quantum leaps that people talk about, like all of this, I think can be encapsulated by the term far out experiences, that it's really just anything outside of what you previously thought your world to be.
Would be. That reminds me of Quantum Leap, the TV show. I love
Yeah.
Quantum Leap, the TV show. Yeah, because I mean that's exactly what you just said.
Okay. I'm gonna have to check it out then.
You will have to
Okay.
check it out. There's the original, of course, and then they did a remake, and the remake is not really a. They still make reference to the original one
Uh-huh.
because this is like the continuation of that. So if you go back and look at the original one, I mean, it's yeah, you really should check that out. You would
Okay.
really appreciate Quantum Leap. It
Okay.
it's
So
this
the
guy that
original, not the remake.
well, both. They're both good. They're both great, actually. In fact, I was very impressed with the remake, not the remake, but the we'll call it part two.
Gotcha.
But much
Where should I
later,
start?
I
I
would
should start with
start
the
with the
original.
original.
Okay.
I'd start with the original, yeah, because that everything you just said, I think your view of consciousness and how all that the past, the present, the future, everything that you just spoke about, yeah, you should
Okay.
do that.
Thank you.
um, so when did I know that you had mentioned in your bio to me that you had gotten into I don't have my glasses on, so I'm gonna wing this.
Okay.
A deep search of occult practices as well as
Yeah.
behavioral change. So, what kind of occult practices did you get into, and how does that relate um, to everything actually that we're talking about?
Hmm. Well, I started looking at healing through sound through a process called inner dance,
Oh,
which
it's a
comes out of the
wonderful thing.
Philippines. Hmm. Um, I started thinking about fasting and perhaps not necessarily needing food to survive, that I could take in life force energy via other means. So I went pretty far out. Yeah.
Pretty pretty deep.
Pretty deep, yeah. Using visualization, and expanding my own, and all of this was through my own experience, yeah, because I had opened up myself so much
Mm,
that there were so many insights that were coming into me, yeah. Like I had this experience of being taught by this it's called the torus. I don't know if you know it. It's sort of like a donut shape and it moves energy around and then it goes, it's sort of like the electromagnetic field, some people call it. Well, I had no idea what it was. And then I started seeing it. And I went to the retreat leader because I was also at a retreat and I was like, I keep seeing this image. What is it? And she was like, oh, it's the torus. Stay open to it. See what happens with it. And
like
then I realized
Taurus is
Taurus.
in like the astrological sign Taurus or
No, no,
Toros.
no. Torus.
Trus. Okay.
Yeah, the Taurus. Um, and I realized that it's a pattern of, and then it taught me. I didn't realize it taught me that it's a pattern of creation, and then it's around everything that's living. It's around my body. It's around trees. It's around the planet. It's around everything that's alive and living. And I realized that it wanted to interact with me, and I started thinking like, oh, maybe this is what consciousness is. Like it's the Taurus. The Taurus is consciousness. I don't know if I'm right or not, but that was just where I ended up. Yeah. But just so these sort of occult practices where I would work with the moon, I would work with crystals, I would work with intentions, I would work with my own body with energy. I like I would work with I tried to work with archangels. That one didn't stick so much for me. Um, I started to work with Kundalini energy as well, and via dance and movement and breath and visualization. So I dabbled. I went into channeling. I tried channeling. Um, I tried so many different things because I think I was really looking for somebody to tell me that this is reality, that somehow we had come to an understanding, that somebody would have an answer for me, right? Like, why am I having these experiences? What is truth? What is this life? And I thought that if I researched enough of the occult, that I could I could arrive at an understanding of it. And I think that now, after my experiences and even my research, that now I'm even more so at a point of just, we have no idea. Like, we just don't know. All of it is co-created with my understanding, my experience, in conversation with you, with your understanding and your experience, and then we co-create an understanding.
Do you think that we all kind of have our we have an ultimate universal truth, but we also have a truth of our own?
Who knows? Like, I just, maybe there is a universal truth, or maybe we're all just alters of consciousness that are just projecting our truth out into the world. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, that
Like,
makes a lot yeah, that makes sense. I mean, obviously, I think, from my perspective, I think that, at least, again, as you said earlier, this is kind of your experience, my experience, then we integrate something within our joint experience to create what we're doing right now.
mhm,
I you know, I think we all kind of seek out our truth and our purpose for why we're here and what we're to do and what we're supposed to be doing within our lifetime and how we're supposed to be contributing to everything, actually, and how we can either make somebody's life positive, and unfortunately there are those out there trying to make somebody's life negative. And I think there's like the yin and yang sort of atmosphere within the universe. How do you feel about that? Like a good and evil, a black and a white, a yin and yang?
I did have, I think in my initial experiences, I had that concept of yin and yang, of feminine and masculine, of good and evil, whatever, this duality.
Right,
And now where I've come to it is yes, there's that. Yes, there's duality. And also, no, at the same time, that our understanding of duality is just something that we as humans try to conceptualize so that we can put meaning to it and understand it. But whether that's actually the truth beyond our
right,
limited sense of consciousness and sensing, who knows, right? Are we ever going to know that, right? Because my consciousness can only reflect on what I observe. Yeah. And my observations are extremely limited. So to even say that there might be a universal truth, maybe, maybe not. Can I, as a human being, say that I know that to any ultimate, penultimate truth? I think that would be extremely egotistical for any one individual to say. And I frown, and I am very skeptical of even academics who've been doing this for decades and
mm,
say, you know, this is the truth. We're all in an ocean of oneness, and you are just an island, but really we're all connected through this ocean. Sure, that's your understanding of it. Is
right.
that the actual truth?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Kind of one of those aspects. I understand that. I think that the is you had put you see the transpersonal, the aka spiritual, mystery, mystical, divine, cosmic intelligence as missing from most contemporary therapeutic work.
Yeah.
um, as behavior is limited to cognition, which is kind of what you just said,
Yeah.
that the perceptions of what we experience as a human being are individual, and that although they might be collective at times, that each experience happens to be our own experience that we may or may not see as our own truth.
Hmm. And to contradict myself now, because I love to do this, is just to, yes, I can have an experience, but we can also have a joint experience, right?
Right.
And in that joining, we can both arrive at a truth. Whether the third, if there was a third entity here and they were observing us, would they agree to the truth that we arrived at? Who knows? Yeah. But I do think that the transpersonal is missing, not only from psychology and
Right.
therapeutic healing, but from our politics, from the ways that we construct our homes, the ways that we grow our food, the ways that we travel. Yeah. The spiritual dimension, the idea that there is something greater than this physical body is missing. Yeah. what that greater is, I have my own understanding of it and my own belief
Mm.
structure. Yeah. But I'm not gonna I'm not gonna force that onto anybody, because that's mine from my own experiences. I really want to invite people to arrive at their own understanding of what spirituality is for them. Yeah.
And that's kind of what I mean, you've built an organization, a company, an entity that helps people through those kind of experiences to help them navigate it, I guess, or manage those experiences, if I can say manage,
Grow from them.
or grow from them, maybe nurture
Yeah.
them, hold their
Yeah.
hand. You know, everybody in life needs somebody to push them from behind sometimes, pull them up from the front sometimes, or walk along and hold their hand, because
Yeah.
they may not have the strength or the visual ability to be able to take and walk a path from that perspective. So, tell me about how you came about creating your company, for example, and what you do.
Yeah, well, I kind of stumbled on it, honestly. I don't, I wish I had, like, I did this, and I was very clear about where I was heading. I wasn't.
The
Yeah, like
universe presented.
it did. I realized that there's this whole of individuals where there's psychology and looking at behavior as, cognitive behavioral therapy. If you just change your thoughts about it, then your life will change. And then there's this spiritual, which is, well, if I pray enough, or if I believe enough, or if I am happy enough and grateful enough, that I can change my world in that way. And and although there's some linking, especially with meditation and yoga and the research that's been done academically lately, that there's, you know, Western psychology has taken some of the Eastern concepts around spirituality and made it their own, because it is beneficial. But there's so much more to it. Yeah, there's so much more in the spiritual dimension that can be infiltrated. And I real like I couldn't, once I saw the whole, and then once I could see my own experience and my own struggles from not finding somebody that could guide me, not having, somebody who had walked the same path of being a Westerner, then getting really intense far out experiences from meditation, yoga, psychedelics, whatever it is. Yeah. And then not having somebody that could tell me, like, okay, this is what you do, this is where you're at right now, here's a path for you to move forward, you're going to be okay, you don't need medication, you're not psychotic, you're not having a manic episode, you're just having a spiritual experience, which is totally fine. Yeah, I saw the whole. I saw that as a society, we're not looking at this. And the way that my personality is that when I see that something's missing, I have to step in and take it on. Yeah, I've done this for my whole entire life. So
Been
here I
there,
am
done
doing
that.
it
I
again.
understand.
Yeah.
I do understand. You found a niche that needed to be filled, and I think that what you provide. I mean, I said this earlier, but I wholeheartedly believe it. As I said, sometimes people need a helping hand, and sometimes they need a little guidance to really understand where they're at, where they need to go, or help them along the direction that
Yeah,
they're going.
because yeah, like in places like New Zealand, right? Like if somebody begins to see their ancestors and have conversation with their dead ancestors, that's respected. Yeah,
Right.
that person then is taken under by an elder and says, "You're okay. You're actually meant to be a healer in this village. You're actually meant to be a leader in this village." We don't have that in our society, and I wonder what kind of healers, what kind of visionaries, what kind of leaders are we institutionalizing instead of taking their
Yeah.
experiences and respecting them and helping them to ground them,
Yep.
to allow those insights to change our society, because there's truth to these mystical states. Yeah, like you said, Mother Earth is a little bit angry right now, right? Like that's a mystical
Yeah.
understanding. Let's use that.
I agree with that. I mean, in this conversation, one more thing, I've been very grateful for one more thing before you go, because it's allowed me to have an immense amount of conversations with individuals that we're coming from, like your background, from a mystical experience, a spiritual experience, a supernatural experience. It The majority of those individuals, and I would say probably 98% of them, I've got over 330 interviews. The majority of those individuals all started experiencing this at a young age, and at that young age, it was immediately shut down.
Mm.
Stop doing that. That's not right. Don't believe in that. Don't, go to your room, keep your mouth shut. Don't tell anybody. They were indoctrinated. It's probably the wrong word, but they were held back from expanding upon and building upon the gift that they had of vision and understanding and empathy and compassion and humanity and a connection to the universe in some form that could have grown into, like you said, could have grown into something that would be beneficial to society as a whole and our culture as a whole. But it was sequestered at such a point that, they shut it down. And then later in life, luckily, they were able to reopen those doors in those windows to allow the light to come back in and start utilizing their gifts from that perspective, the gift of the sight and the sound and understanding and the soul, touching the soul, that it was able to to be more positive for them. But it, if you look at, again, just my show, just my podcast, the number of individuals that I've had conversations with, look at worldwide how many times that's been shut down to somebody, as you just said. And if it would have been allowed to grow and nurture like it should have been in the first place, what kind of a world would we be now?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
What
Um,
kind of world, right? Who would be leading our countries? Who would be leading our cities, right?
exactly.
How would we be taking care of the old growth trees that are around us if we were to look at them as wise elders? Yeah, like
Yep.
it would be I think that it would be a completely different world. We'd be a lot more connected, a lot more grounded, a lot more compassionate to one another, because I think there would hopefully be this understanding of we're all connected.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. If somebody's starting to feel, if they're starting to feel these things affecting them, they starting to understand that they may need to walk a journey like you walked. What are some tips that they could use to kind of either nurture that, understand that, or at what point should they reach out for help?
Yeah, grounding is a huge thing that to keep in mind. Yeah, so to staying grounded, having some sort of daily, maybe twice daily practice of grounding. Because once an individual becomes so sensitive and that they open up their consciousness to these far out experiences, that they can get very dysregulated. Yeah, their nervous system loses its grounding, its stability, its center, and that's where people get lost. So it's okay to have these experiences, but remembering to stay grounded, staying connected to the earth, staying connected to this consensus reality, so that individuals then can hold both consensus reality and their far out experiences, that it doesn't become either or, but that it becomes both and. Yeah, so staying grounded is important. And then finding individuals and places where they feel safe, where they can relax, and whom they can speak to about these experiences so that they can create meaning out of them. Because if they just stay internalized in our own head, yeah, we either forget about them, we can make ourselves go a little bit nuts thinking about them and trying to understand what's happening. Yeah, we're relational human beings. Yeah, we're not we're not grizzly bears. We're more like elephants. Yeah, we need a safe other to make sense, to understand our experiences. So finding those safe places, um, whether that be communities, finding books to help, again, just to ground their insights, yeah, to make them understand that, one, they're not alone, they're not special, okay? Because that's another trap that people fall into, thinking, oh, I'm having these mystical experiences. That must mean that I'm so amazing and that I can fly. Yeah. um, Remembering that they're not special, that they're still a human being, even with their newfound capabilities. Yeah. But all these things, grounding, normalization by communities and safe others, finding safety, remembering that they're human, all of these things are really important. And at some point, they might become overwhelmed and scared with their experiences, and they might not have communities or safe others to lean on. At that point, I think it's important to seek out help. Yeah, whether it be from like a transpersonal therapist like myself or anybody else. Yeah, there's lots of people, there's lots of organizations that actually support these individuals. So just knowing, yeah, discerning when is the right time for me to get help with this. Some people can do it by themselves, some people need help.
And don't be afraid to reach out for help. And I've said
Yeah.
this countless times because I had to learn that lesson myself.
Yeah.
That all you need to do is ask. It's
Yeah,
as
that's
simple
it.
as simple. It just I realize that I emphasize simple because it is that simple.
it,
You just
it
have to
can
ask.
be. You
Yep,
just have to
absolutely.
ask. Yeah, and just
Well,
trusting yourself that who you're asking, that they're going to be open. Yeah.
exactly. Um, if somebody wants to find and ask you for help, what kind of things do I know that you've got a website, which we have up here on the screen, but if you can say it out loud for me, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
In some of the classes that you offer, some of the services that you offer to help someone through the journeys that we just spoke about.
hmm so primarily I work one-on-one with people, and then I also have groups, which isn't on here, but groups for individuals going through these experiences. And they can shoot me an email, or they can even land on my website, which is right there, andradedu.com. I'm sorry that's not easily spelled, but maybe I can spell it. So it's Andra, ANDRADEDIU.com. Yeah,
It's better than supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.com, right?
I mean, it's pretty close to that. Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's so yeah, see there's a positive.
Yeah.
Um, Audra, it's been, a pleasure talking to you. I could talk to you for another hour, or 2, along all of this. I think it's fascinating. I think your journey has been an amazing one, and what you give back to the world is also an amazing, profound experience that others should really, reach out and hopefully open their eyes, their heart, and their soul to. So, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I'll make sure that everything is in the show notes, by the way, so that everybody can find out how to reach out to you. I think you've got on your website, correct me if I'm wrong, there's something free on there, isn't there?
There is, yeah, and there will be more free stuff, yeah. So people can sign up for podcasts. They can also sign up for my email newsletter, where I share a lot on there. People get exclusive invitations for free groups and free sessions, and also lots of practices that I share. So it's important for me to be extremely generous. Whether people work with me or not isn't the goal here for me. It's just to have a positive impact.
And free is free. So take advantage because that might open some doors for you guys out there that are really looking for a, a question to be answered or open the door to help you understand what you're feeling right now or what you're going through. So please do. This is one more thing before you go. So, any words of wisdom before we go?
Mm. Just remember that there's no penultimate spiritual truth. Yeah. and trusting oneself to arrive at one's own truth and understanding and path in this life.
There's
Thank you,
brilliant
Michael.
words of wisdom. Brilliant words of wisdom. Andra, thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you for joining me, sharing your journey. I really appreciate that. And again, thank you for what you do for the world. I hope to have you back again.
Thank you, Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure.
For everyone that's out there, the show notes will have all the contact information for you to be able to reach out very quickly and easily. Just be able to click the link. And one more thing before you all go, have a great day, have a great week, and thank you for listening and watching.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Thing Before You Go. Check out our website at beforeyougopodcast.com. You can find us as well as subscribe to the program and rate us on your favorite podcast listening platform.